This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and the things you struggle with most so you can have more energy and less decision fatigue about what to eat, how to move, and so you can change your thoughts to flip 50 with the life and the energy you love in this second and better half. And today, if I'm totally honest with you, and really, as I think about this, it's not such a good idea. I'd be totally honest with you, but I'm going to anyway. You're in my inner circle. I am winging this podcast just a bit. And here's why. I had something else all laid out, and actually what I'm going to do, because I can't keep a secret or contain myself, I'm going to deliver that on a live Facebook in just a little bit. So if you missed it by the time you listen to this, you can go back and listen to it on Monday. It'll be in the timeline on Flipping 50 TV, the Facebook page, where you can look on Monday, February 5th for the 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time discussion that I did about the importance of warming up and fat burning. So that was to have been this podcast, but instead, I am an exercise and sport psychologist by training. Now, I stopped short of becoming a clinical psychologist because the more I got into the educational world and academia, the more I realized that business was a better way to go, potentially for freedom. So I say that not because I think it's a good thing that anybody can say anything at all, but that things move too slowly sometimes in the education and academic world and anywhere where government has a hand in regulations. By the time you can actually deliver the news, it's outdated. And so I thought, I need to actually be out there doing this in the real world and being, in a little office behind a desk all day, even though I would be talking and interacting with people, primarily I would have been doing it at that point, one person at a time. And it really wasn't going to serve me or meaning stimulate me completely. I need a variety of ways to deliver content in order to stay creative. And I wasn't going to be able to reach very many people. I mean, there's a limit to how many hours in a day you can, or at least you should, I think, work. So that said, I geek all things psychology and motivation and, looking at discipline and willpower. Definitely, those are big topics of conversation for us. But what I want to talk about has come across my desk in the form of a book and in the form of discussions with my own mastermind, my business mastery group, where we are actually people in the health and wellness arena who have an education, have certifications, have a lot of experience. We're using science-based and science-backed information and programs, and we want to do good. And we want to let people know that there's a different way to think about things than we've ever been presented with before, in terms of nutrition, in terms of the way we go about healing people, and that includes fitness, the way we go about our fitness programming and what is best. There does have to be some kind of a skeleton, some kind of a system that we start with. But then, because none of us are that exact average, we've got to color outside the lines. So what I want to share with you are some of these conversations that have evolved that, we're really trying to figure out why. And I ponder this so very often. Why is it that the statistic of, the number of people who are exercising, and nutrition goes hand in hand with this, but that are exercising enough to really improve their health and their longevity and the quality of their life, That statistic has not changed. In the 34 years I've been involved in the fitness industry, it's the exact same. So at that point, it was about 70% of the population was not exercising enough to enhance their health, let alone their fitness. So fitness is like above and beyond. So let's get clear on health means just stopping disease, right? Reducing your risk of disease and potentially improving, say, blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and risk of those diseases. So when we talk about fitness, now we're talking about, something a little bit higher, kind of a middle tier. And that's where, all right, now our cardiovascular fitness, our strength, our endurance, they're much better. And we're looking at what other things can we do, besides just live, right? And live longer, a higher quality of life. Then there's on the top tier, there's performance. So that's whether you're an age grouper, meaning you're just however old you are, who participates in athletics, even if it's fun runs. You're quote unquote an athlete. I like to think we all are athletes. There's an athlete in each one of us. Maybe you didn't have the right coach to bring it out, but I guarantee you it's in there. So, that's the three levels, and we just don't even, let alone the iceberg on top. We don't get to the top of the mountain, but we barely are picking away at the bottom still. So really 30% of us. Now, here's the ironic piece. When you look at what happened in the fitness industry, there are more personal trainers now than ever before. So about 6 years ago, that number, we could actually put a handle on it. It was about 250,000 certified personal trainers. Now, that number is really hard to track now because there are so many more certification agencies. And then there is the question of, what are we calling certification? And I hope you're questioning that too, because there are certifications that, I've gone through that take, months to read the textbook, go through the certification materials, and even feel ready to sit for the exam. And then it's a matter of, I'm sweating this out, and I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and years of experience. And when I think a test is designed like that, so that it makes someone sweat, it makes somebody nervous about being able to pass it, I think that's a good thing. We are not supposed to learn from a certification. A certification should quantify what we have learned and our ability to apply it. What I'm finding is, right now I'm in the process actually of mentoring item writers, meaning question writers for a national exam, a very well-known national exam agency. And I am reminded as I'm doing that the purpose of the certification exams are to measure that that person passing the exam has a minimum threshold of knowledge to enter the field. And makes me extremely nervous to say that. So it means that, your fate is left to the hands either of yourself if you are interviewing and hiring a trainer independently, or if you walk into a fitness center, it is left to, whoever hired them. Do they train them additionally to be able to apply what they've learned in the real world? Because otherwise they don't have any life experience as a trainer. Once they've simply become certified, we don't know that they have anything at all. And that could mean they don't need to have had a degree for most exams. There is one out there in existence. The National Strength and Conditioning Association requires it. And that's for both, I take that back, that is for the Certified Strength and Conditioning Coach. I don't know that it is for the personal trainer exam under their umbrella, but that's all just to give you a little background about, what's going on and where we are with the level and the grade of quality control in fitness, in the industry. But here's what I really want to dive into with you today is knowing that background and knowing things have not changed. I want to give you a little get out of jail card and help you feel better if you have started and stopped a program before, if you have self-sabotage before, if you have felt like you have a lack of discipline or a lack of willpower, and there is something wrong with you because other people have so much more discipline or willpower. This is for you in a very short message. So I won't take long to deliver this, but here right now is the nugget. So pay attention to this, and I'll restate it. But we all have a degree of clarity around what it is we want. Now, your clarity may be more or greater around what you don't want. You may be right now in it and realize this is not it. I'm not sure, though, what it is. Maybe a follow-up statement. So one of the hardest questions I know for many of my private clients to answer when I'm first talking to them is, what do they want? And we're digging down. It's like, why do you want that? What's that going to do? It gets hard to answer those questions, partially because sometimes we don't know the answer, and sometimes we do, and we're actually a little embarrassed. We feel like it might be egocentric to say why we want that. So, if you want to lose weight, you want to look better, sometimes that feels like, wow, what an egotistical, vain goal that might be. And, I want to let you know that there is nothing wrong with that being your motivation, because from my side of the desk or the dumbbells, if you will, what that does for you is really a sense of confidence in your life. And that's with relationships that, are near and dear and intimate to you. It's, in the way you work with your employer, your employees, if you've got them, or simply yourself. I'm sitting here working right now, right, at my dining room table, which is where things always land in my life. I've had a desk, I have an office, about 14 feet away, but this just seems to be the center of it all, and I much prefer it. But looking at, how you engage with the world as a better form of you, may start with how you look, because that has a lot to do with how you feel. So how you look, not necessarily outwardly, but to yourself, how you feel like you are portraying you. And that's an important piece of, you feeling really good. So clarity is really important, clarity on what you want. But here's the bigger piece, clarity about how to get it. And so many times on this podcast, in my blog, in my books, and on stages, live stages where I'm presenting and speaking to primarily women's groups, I am talking about infobesity. There is not a lack of information. There's an overwhelm of information. And we're left sitting in the middle of the floor, kind of looking at around us, not knowing which pile to dive into first. It's like, for me, when my house really gets cleaned, yeah, it's pretty bad before I get to that point that I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to do this. I just don't know where to start. And a lot of people, that's the problem. But here's the deal. The more clarity about what you want that you have, the more motivation you will have in almost all situations. Not just when it's easy, like the first day when you start. I mean, that is the honeymoon. I think every day after that is hard. And every day that ends in Y is hard, right? And, life throws things at you. But when you're clear about what it is that you should do and why you should do, so you know exactly how it's going to help and connect you from where you are now to where you really want to be or how you really want to feel, then it's easier to stay motivated, even in the toughest situations, when it's not convenient, when, you're under stress and, it's just not easy. Now, for most of us women, that's most days, partially because of what we do to ourselves with, an abundance of multitasking going on. We're thinking about too many things at once. We have too many open loops, really is how a good friend of mine referred to it. We don't finish things. We start a lot of things and then we keep a lot of things going. Right now, I'm so guilty of this. Right now, I have 2 browsers open while I'm using an application to make this recording. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 8 Word documents on my dock on my Mac. And if you could right now see my screen, I don't even want to guess, but I would hesitate not very much to say I probably have 50 folders and documents sitting on my desktop right now. I used to have that perfectly clean, and so wish that I did, but what my fear is that if I put them away, I'll lose them, I'll forget them, because I have too many other things coming at me. The truth is I'm not getting to them sitting there, but that's another story. But that's an example of clarity or lack thereof, right? We have so much information coming at us that we've really got to have a good handle on what it is we have to do. The difference between those, anybody, business men and women, or successfully healthy, fit, thriving. And I hesitate to use the word thin, because, healthy and fit, your definition of what that is really what's most important. So it's not a certain weight necessarily. It's not, a certain size, but healthy, successful people, whether in fitness, health and wellness, or in business, share certain traits. And number one among them is clarity. You have to know what you want, very specifically be able to see the vision of you, how it feels to be you when you're at your 100%. And then 2, you have to have clarity on what it is that will get you to that point. So I encourage you highly to stop and look at, number 1, can you see the vision? Do you have a clear reality of what it is that you want? And, secondary to that, maybe, do you really have a strong belief that that is possible for you, that it is your potential, and in fact, your purpose, that you will and need to be there to thrive? And then, do you have the clear information that you need to get there? And if not, a couple of other questions that I'm going to ask you are, 1, energy. So if you're going to stay committed, and this seems backwards, right? It seems like when you get well and fit and healthy, then you will have energy. But actually, you've got to have energy in order to dedicate it to the things that will help you be more fit and make better choices. When you have energy, you will make better choices every day, and you will be more resilient to stressors. You'll be more happy and more engaged in your life. And all of that will play into your wellness, your health, and your fitness level. So as odd as that seems, you've got to look at how do you give yourself maybe the right chemistry. Right now, if you are full of anxiety or maybe depression, or you're suffering with signs of, what we know often is adrenal fatigue. You can't get up in the morning, you feel hungover, you don't have the fun, you we're in bed long enough that you should be rested, but you're just simply not. And if those things describe you and you don't really have an appetite in the morning, very likely, adrenal fatigue is an issue, but we've got to change your chemistry to help you even feel better. So it's not necessarily starting with exercise. In that case, it's probably starting with nutrition, because food is medicine. It's not just about how much fat, how many carbohydrates, how much protein, but it's also about the micronutrients that are in each food and how they help hormone balancing and the brain chemistry so that you can feel better. Certain hormones like serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good hormones, can relieve some symptoms of depression, even light symptoms that many of us have on a gray, cloudy day. The right food can actually help overcome some of those things. So, if you have something more severe, you need to be even more careful that you have the right things on a regular basis to make it possible to give you a little bit more energy, to get some more exercise, to get stronger, to gain some stamina. So clarity is important. Energy is important to carry out the things that you know. If you have questions about what should you be doing for strength, what should you be doing for your cardiovascular wellness, for your mobility, to feel better and get fit, or to lose the weight if you stand to lose some, then ask those questions. One of the ways you can get access is gaining the book, Hot Not Bothered, and you can get a free book, a free PDF. So let's just make it clear, it's a PDF, an ebook, if you will. So you can get that downloaded right to your computer, or if you're like me, I would print out all 200 and some pages because I need to hold things in my hand and underline and highlight and just flip back corners. That's what I do. But you can get that at flipping50.com. That flipping50 is all spelled out, no numbers, no spaces, /hot not bothered, no spaces in that. And I'll put that link below the show, but that's one way to start getting, what it is I need to do for strength training, what it is that has to happen for cardiovascular exercise and mobility and to feel better. And the third thing I want to ask you is, and this is about your motivation. And when we're marketing, when I'm in my business or I'm consulting with someone, one of the things we always employ is urgency, because we all operate better under a deadline. And so looking at what is your sense of urgency about making these changes. If you don't have any sense of urgency, that you need to be your best, you need to feel your best or be at your 100% game on face for yourself or for somebody else, then it may be really hard for you to make changes. The emotional commitment that you have to showing up at your best, feeling like you've got to do that, makes a huge difference in whether or not you will actually ask the questions to get clarity, or whether you will simply stay stuck and be okay with saying you just don't know what to do. So if you don't know the answers, there is a way to find out. And, by not finding out, by not finding an expert that you know, like, and trust, whether it's me, and I'm honored if it is, or it's someone else who resonates better with you. And many of us should and do have more than one voice that we consult. It's nice to make sure there is, a collective reasoning going in the same direction, that it's one person, it's not just one person speaking this singular answer, but there's somebody else who also is whispering that, and it's a truth. Maybe they're in a minority, but if what's been said to you before is not working, that could be the breakthrough that you need. But look for that, because this is really important. low levels of that sense of urgency, that necessity to change or show up, make it really hard to, turn off Netflix and go to bed so that you can wake up rested, and get stuff done, right? So moving forward, many of us feel like we're stuck. But when you look at, what did you do today to move forward at the end of every day, or you ask yourself that question, sometimes there is, a reason to say, all right, well, I didn't move forward today. I didn't take any steps, any action. So I can't expect that I would move forward today. So I would highly encourage you to look at these 3 things. And I want to share with you, looking at clarity in the 2 ways I've discussed, clear in goals, clear in how to get to those goals. And if you don't have all the answers, that's okay. But sit down, because only you can do the what you want, and or sit down with a coach. Or 2, sit down and find someone you know, like, and trust to get the how do I change, what do I do, what is my path, and get the energy first to help you do that. Again, you might need help doing that. And then look for, do you have the urgency and the necessity? And do you really want to change and really feel like you need to show up 100% for you, as you, for someone else? Maybe those people you work for or with, or for who work for you, or for your family. Is there someone who benefits or is hurt if you're not 100% you? Look at those things. And, if this conversation was at all resonating with you, I want you to realize that, I could come on and I could tell you, here's exactly how you need to warm up. Here's exactly how you need to strength train the exercises you need to do. Here's how you should do your sets and your repetitions, how much rest you should take between. Here's what your week should look like. Those are the easy things. But sometimes those are superficial things. If you're not doing the rest, the exercise alone is not enough. It's a part of the puzzle, but you've got to have the rest of the things, and you've got to have the need and the desire to do it for the rest of your life, and to allow it to change your life for the better, as opposed to being something that you dislike doing and only see yourself doing short term to achieve this small reach into a dress or button up your pant size, for a very short duration. It's a forever thing, and it's gonna require that you start embracing it. And so look at these things, and if that is resonating, this is a very superficial 30-minute take on a really long-term project. You are the long-term project. And what I want to share with you here is that this is something we frequently dive into in the Flipping 50 Cafe. So although the cafe offers education on nutrition, on fitness, on wellness, on flexibility and mobility and joint by joint care and bone density and osteoporosis, exercise with arthritis, and so many more topics, I also go heavily into the mindset, because as an exercise psychologist, that's what I know needs to change. Those 6 inches between your ears have to change before the rest can, and the rest can change permanently. You've got to buy into that. So actually this month, this week, and as you listen to this, if you're hearing it fresh, tomorrow, we do a live webinar on exactly this. So looking deeper, much deeper into what it is, what are the habits, what's the difference between somebody who successfully crosses over to the other side to be, someone who takes care of themselves in fitness, in nutrition, in wellness, in habits of daily life. What's the difference? Because I wasn't born any different than you. Until I was, 18 or 19, I had never self-initiated exercise. I wasn't really an athlete. I was from a small school, so anybody who, got to go out for a sport, or everybody could, was a quote-unquote athlete. But I really did not excel. I really did not try, I'll tell you that. I loved the way, I felt in a uniform, but that's about where the buck stopped. So being a part of a team was a much bigger deal than excelling as an athlete on any team. And yet, habits changed everything for me. In my 20s, the flip got switched. And you can flip yours in your 50s, your 60s, or your 70s, wherever you are and you're listening to this. It's never too late. My mother, I think, began going gluten-free and reducing her sugar intake in her late 80s. She's now 91. Feels pretty good. Thinks pretty well. Still drives her car way too fast. Love that about her. So if I spurred you to think about the cafe, I'm going to leave a link below the show. We no longer do month-to-month memberships because I want you in and committed for a year. I want you to not necessarily to replace your gym membership at home or your personal trainer, but to supplement with us in our community what it is that it takes to be a woman over 50, changing the way we age, not going with the norm or the expectations that have been true of generations before us, but really changing and rocking the boat. So if you have a question or a comment, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com and join us on the Flipping 50 TV Facebook page. I will leave the link to that as well. To get all the juicy resources and links mentioned in the show notes, visit today's episode at flipping50.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating in iTunes. It really helps us spread the word to more women like us. And then share this with a friend so you can surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. What are you waiting for? Start flipping 50 today.